So FABLED Set 9 is finally out, KG, in obviously English-speaking countries.
Yeah.
Now, my initial thoughts, I think Blue Pill's going to be quite powerful, and we're going to be talking about that first on our channel as well. There are quite interesting cards after the rotation. Some new faces, some familiar faces. Did you want to give a little bit of an insight on this deck?
As people anticipated and as Tai kind of requested, the Blooper deck is one of the most strongest deck in the metagame, and needless to say that everyone looking onto the new card called Dumbo. The Dumbo is definitely a key card which can change the whole environment. And because of him, all you need to do is put additional evasive cards, and also that most of the evasive cards has less of the strengths. You need to consider what type of the card you are going to put into the turn 1 and the turn 2. Especially turn 1, I'd say, because you have no idea what type of the deck you can play. The first thing you have to do is build an aggro deck. After that, we just adjusting our current meta deck or create completely brand new deck. So the Bravo itself is not a brand new deck. But they had a lot of changes. The first big change after the rotation, you cannot have any of Madame Mim or Marines. Technically, we still have the Madame Mim, but all the Marines are gone. The cards you love to play, the Marine Gold, Marine Crab, and the Marine Rabbit, they're all gone now. And your beloved package, which is Madame Mim Fox, the one of the most powerful card on turn 3, they'll not be there after the rotation. The whole brand new environment, you need to consider what type of the metagame you will be facing. At that point, Dumbo is definitely a key card which can dominate whole situations. In this Bravo deck, what you can see is only the new card is a Dumbo, and all the other cards you might saw that before. Still, there's a lot of new strategies and a lot of new combinations.
It is probably a Peter Pan, a Shadow Finder. I think that was a huge part of the deck. Also, because obviously Iago, Genie, and Elsa definitely benefited off that in the previous meta, but now because that no longer exists, you do have to kind of come up with a interesting way, I would say, to make this deck viable now. And you can probably see that from obviously the cards that we're going to talk about. So on turn 1 drops we have Rafiki and also Royal Guard as full copies of, and we have Basil. Rafiki and Royal Guard, very similar card, I would say, except Rafiki obviously gets Challenger 3 on the basis, and Royal Guard, it will start your turn with Challenger 1 because obviously you'll be picking up a card from your turn, so it's 2/2. And if another card was to grant you a draw, cards like Hypnotic Strength, it can make this card hit for 5 strength, which can take out cards like Daisy Duck as well as Rhino. Similar strategy why Basil is also here, but this card is 100% used more so to target evasive characters. Possibly Tipo hitting for something with 3 willpower is also an option, but I would say more so turn 1 drop something, turn 2 sail the Azure at Sea, and hope to put Basil in turn 4 Genie or another evasive character, and them being able to hit with something stronger is what the target is. It looks pretty strong, makes sense.
So the reason I choose those 3 types of turn 1 drops is because we are aiming to take down, as Tai says, the Rhino, Shifted Rhino, and also our Daisy Duck. Daisy Duck, the most powerful first turn drop. To take her down, it will require at least a 4 strength. And no, the turn 1 drop can make it happen. However, with the backup with Hypnotic Strength, you can eliminate those tough characters in the earlier stages.
The Blue Pill strategy from the previous set hasn't changed, so you're obviously targeting turn 2 Tipo or Sail the Azure at Sea to ramp up to the turn 4 drops, which are now the new Dumbo, Genie, and Iago. And now we have the new face, Madame Mim Elephant. She is a card that can bounce one of your card back. So if your character's 1 drops or 2 drops that has done its job, you can get it back. I think it's quite nice now to have this option almost, purely because your hand side is really limited now in the meta after Fabled, purely because of lack of card draws now in the meta, and Madam Mim coming down on turn 4 with 3/7 stat line is quite good regardless. Now obviously that's the same for Iago with such a huge body. Yes, it is an illusion, but for your opponent to target your card with their action usually results in tempo loss. Maybe not so much if they are to play a card like Improvise, but Fire the Cannon, Strength of Raging Fire, it does almost feel like a waste to put it onto this character. But yeah, Genie, Dumbo, self-explanatory, just kind of starts getting advantage from the get-go that you play, and your opponent can't really answer back when they come down on turn 3, so that is the definite option there. Now turn 5 we have 4 copies of the Bell Mystic Sorcerer now. Again, there are definitely a lack of card draw as well as lack of removal now in the current meta, and fortunately Blurple is probably one of the best colors that has the options, and Bell, because you are mainly challenging for you to remove opponent threats and characters, you are required to play 4 copies of, so you can remove your damage that way to challenge in your favor, as well as Elsa for the Spirit, because she's the only one that can force, exert, and challenge opponent characters now, which sounds crazy, but that's the amount of option that we currently have now. And because of that, we definitely need 4 copies of Hades to make it in time so we can make sure that the aggro has no escape, and that's why we are playing the 2 copies of Big Elsa as well in this list. Another card that was played really long time ago but came back is Donald Duck for that reason, just so you can ramp up the Hades very safely with the definite answers there. For our spells, as we explained before, Hypnotic Strength, Sail the Azurite Sea, definitely 4 copies of, and now we are running 4 copies of Into the Unknown and Finders Keepers.
So obviously, as you can see and as Ty explained, this deck has tons of turn 3-4 drop and finish the game by casting Hades and Elsa. And there's a lot of the strategies, but first thing, the Dumbo is not the card you want to play on turn 3 actually, after the acceleration. It is still solid. It has the ability and it will provide you additional card and lore for sure, but it is not always effective against Aggro deck. So that's the first thing. Against Aggro, as you can see, the most effective card is Iago. He's a tough bird, a kind of the illusion, and he can get rid of any type of turn 3 or turn 2 drops by just challenging it. He is a kind of the lack of the reliability due to his vanish ability. So that's why the Genie is also one of the most reliable cards on this deck, and you just gain additional cards, and he's evasive, so you really don't worry about some like character without evasive. And what you should expect is that most of the players going to use this strategy, so you will see a bunch of this 4 Dumbo, 4 Genie, and 4 Iago in everyone's deck if they running with the Amethyst. These cards are kind of essential, and as well as all other cards which we have full set. So Elsa, Bell, Finders Keepers, and Into the Unknown, Hades, and of course like turn 2 drops, those cards are essential, literally. Because you don't want to lose the card advantages since we lost Tamator. I mean, he's still out there, but we lost the Popsicle, so we cannot refill the cards that easily.
No.
So the cards which can provide you the additional turns are quite important. And also when you play this deck, you're also focusing on trying not to losing your cards by just inking it. So that's why Madame Mim, Dumbo, Genie, those cards can provide you additional cards, so you really don't have to waste your Elsa or Bell in your hands, or Finders Keepers, because those cards you want to keep in your hand as much as you can. It's because most of the time those cards are effective to flip the board or to finish in the game or to gain the advantages. Those cards are so powerful. So those cards, Elsa and Barra, shouldn't be into the ink. Unless you don't have another like options. The second thing you should think about is why Into the Unknown is here. It's because this Into the Unknown is a kind of the new brawl. The brawl was essential in the previous metagame. The Singer deck and most of the aggressive deck, they have their key character with strength 2 or less. And
Mm.
that's why the brewers, everyone put at least 2 to 4.
2 copies minimum, yeah.
4 is more effective on to
Yeah,
most of the deck.
Of course, yeah.
And the reason Into the Unknowns here is the same reason, because we don't have much removal actions anymore after the rotation. This card definitely can answer against the Dumble, and the Genie and Hades or any other card is hard to remove. Probably the Madame Mim sometimes, or Elsa. You cannot challenge those characters, or if you don't have much characters to challenge, the Into the Unknown is the best card. Sometimes you just sing it with Elsa or Iago, or sometimes you just hard cards from your hand.
I guess technically Into the Unknown is an anti-Dumble card because it can choose to exert characters, and obviously Dumble wants the characters to exert. And then unfortunately the blue pole gets to have that card. So you are playing purple anyway. So I guess you can use your Dumble better than your opponent, which sounds crazy.
And most of the time also the Iago and Genie, you definitely need to drop turn 3 or turn 4 drop the evasive characters onto the field to fight against the evasive character. Whether you play first or not, those cards are essential. So that's why metagame is quite limited. So if the opponent plays Genie, you need to cast Genie as well. Then following turn, they might probably casting Elsa to take down your Genie, or put like an Iago or a Dumble to enhance and like to fortify the situation and just questing. And what you have to do is crossing your finger to like wishing your luck to your evasive character will be survive another turn, then challenging with them and play Elsa or play Belle. Either way, those cards are essential, and that's why you also need to think about how you drop the stages with those cards.
Personally, I'm very excited for that blue pole to do well, starting from this set. I have been waiting for this archetype to be more of a thing. I started playing like set 5, and then it was always missing like couple cards to actually make it nice. And I think around Arcasia's Island and Reign of Jafar, it did get some nice addition to make it quite viable. But now I think it looks very, very solid, and looks like it's going to be something that's going to be at the top of meta if it can deal with the aggro in time with how fast the aggro it's gotten as well. What would be like a sort of the cards you'd be thinking of keeping in your hand and also altering KG?
So altering, you really don't need Elsa or Belle in your first round, and needless to say, you really don't need like uninkable high cost cards such as Hades and Elsa. So like a 7 cost Hades and 8 cost Elsa is definitely need to go back to the bottom of your deck. And depends on the situation, but I definitely going to reshuffling on those Belle into the deck as well. The Elsa depends. When you knew the like a second game, then sometimes we really need her. So sometimes you have like a 1 Elsa, you might need to keep her in your hand, especially your turn 3 or turn 4 drop. If that one is a Genie, you got to keep your Elsa in your hand. So that's the point. But aside from that, to catch up the opponent's speed, you definitely need, I think like you should keep like Keeper and Senses Red Sea, of course, and sometimes the Royal Guard. Rafiki depends on. If that is like the mirror matchup, Rafiki is not so effective, so you can skip turn 1 drop and just focus on the acceleration rather than keep playing him on turn 1. And you can still keep him as an inkable card. The technique is you really don't have to place it on turn 1.
Okay.
So like I said, keeping hands is kind of the easy. The 1 acceleration at least, and 1 turn 3, which is cost 4 drops, and some inkable cards. So that's like an ideal situation that you are going to start the game. It doesn't matter which cards are. Ideally, Genie and Iago in your hands is the best, and you have people or says the Red Sea one of them, and idealistically you might need to have turn 1 drop such as Royal Guard or Rafiki. Another card is Hypnotic Strength, then that would be perfect to start your game.
I would say so as well. For Blurple, when I have played it, or like I have been playing it, it's quite easy to keep your hand in altering. It gives you so much option, and your low percentage on uninkables made it quite consistent anyway. As long as you're definitely can hit turn 2 ramp, it's not bad at all. You pretty much alter every 5 drop plus that you get in your hand anyway, and then you are just wanting those cards so you can keep cycling through your needs. But yeah, I think it looks very solid, and I'm very, very excited to see how this deck will do. I'm really good that Blurple is a color that might be coming close to the top meta. It will be really interesting to see some changes in the meta table. We are moving on to the second deck, which is the Amber Steel Aggro. Now, I guess after the rotation, we had a lot of these songs get removed out, so we don't have any Steel Song archetype now, as you would call it, and then what people call Diggy Aggro kind of stayed in the meta because of majority of the cards being printed post set 5, I guess. So let's have a look at the list. We have 14 9-linkables in this list, which is quite high, but it's usually okay because of how low the cost of the cards are. We obviously have, for 1-drops, 4 copies of Daisy Duck, 4 copies of Rhino, and 4 copies of Happy. And in the 2-drops we have Penny, we have 4 copies of Calhoun, we have 4 copies of Doc, and also Mr. Arrow. And now we have 2 copies of the new Nala, and we have 4 copies of 3-drop Lady, 4 copies of the reprinted Lawrence, and 4 copies of the new Lilo, and 4 copies of the Shift Rhino, as well as 4 copies of Pluto. The highest cost character card in this list only goes up to 4, which is the important part. And we have 2 copies of Fire the Cannons, which I quite like, and 2 copies of Smash, which I also quite like, and we have 4 copies of Strength of Raging Fire, and we have 4 copies of the 7 Dwarfs Mine. We have cards like Happy and also Calhoun making the return. I personally think, depending on the meta, Calhoun will be a great card, purely because of the skill set, and it looks like a lot of people are trying to go wide and quest to win the game, and Calhoun kind of trumps that. So I'm very excited to see how well she will do, because obviously with the new Lady that came out in the last set, Calhoun could come out for free, which I think is a very dangerous thing. Depending on what the matchup is, you can always just put Lady out and then put Calhoun out anyway to see who will win the matchup. So that's really cool. Lilo, brand new card. It's honestly just quite strong. I don't really have much to say, but if you were going to play this color and if you're going to go wide and if you're going to quest fast, why would you not play her? And obviously right now the strongest turn 1 drop and strongest turn 2 drop exist in this colorway, which is obviously the Daisy Duck and the Rhino Shift. I guess it makes sense to play this color, KG.
Mostly the reason we played this deck, since after the rotation this archetype didn't lost any type of curse.
No.
Only few curses are missing.
Mr. Smee.
Yeah, Mr. Smee, and the second card might be Alone King Zeus. It was the anti-card against the Maui Shark. The environment has been accelerated, and the shark won't appear that soon, unless Tonzo like Ruby Amethyst Lover using that archetype. So the environment won't be flooded by shark,
No.
but the other card, most likely Dumbo. And then you really don't need Zeus type of card in this deck because the other card can deal with the Dumbo, which is Smash in this deck. Also, this archetype's speed is beyond expectation, simply because of Ready and then other new cards. They all have like 2 roars, and then finish the game in quite high speed in turn 5 or 6 if the opponent doesn't have the answer. The card choice, you might have a think we have the other option, and I'm going to explain why we didn't use some specific cards which we saw in the previous season. Lilo is kind of the overpowered turn 3, so she is quite powerful. Tai just described, when you facing those aggro against aggro, the mirror match, the most of the characters are waiting for the quest is you need to line up those characters to obtain the enough roars in 1 turn. And to reach out the goal or to reach the race. However, the Lilo herself is a perfect counter attack. She's almost like a Cricky in a different color, and it's much cheaper cost. And she's also inkable. She doesn't have much power when she questing. This deck has a combination with Mr. Arrow. That's why the deck name is Fire the Arrow. In the latest game, or when the game just started stage situation, you just quest with Lilo and challenge with Mr. Arrow. And most likely the target would be the Calhoun or the other character, which is easy to take out. Maybe the opponent Nara or Penny. already, like whichever you want. The reroll is always effective during the mirror matchup or any type of aggro or in early stages. Even you play the second, the reroll is kind of effective on turn 3. That's one of the most powerful cards in this deck. About the second card, Nara, why we only choose just couple set of Nara, it's because this deck already have tons of uninkable. I wanted to put full set of Daisy Duck and Nara, but those cards are actually quite strong, so because of their popularity, your opponent might have the answer for it. For instance, the Daisy Duck is definitely going to be targeted. That's why most of the Amethyst player choosing turn 1 as like Royal Guard or the Rafiki, and backed up by some like Hypnotic Strings or Madame Mim, and they try to take out those Daisy Duck or Line Shift. In that situation, Nara is also not so effective, but she's still powerful card, especially when you play first. That's why we still keeping her, but kind of the backup option. The other thing, since after we lost Mr. Smith, most powerful turn to drop in the steel card deck, the reason it was strong is because it has 2 roar and also 3 strength and 3 willpower. Most likely it's gonna be reducing to 2, but still. So it can fight back against some like Genie or the other characters. It's a bit hard to get rid of, and it's kind of the wasting. But if you like just like leaving him, then maybe like a Rapunzel were coming and like they were referring the hand, Mr. Smith walking again. So that was the situation. But we are missing those 2 cards now, so you cannot expect those referring packages and those powerful movement. So you lost completely those draw sources. All you can rely on is a dock. The dock himself can provide you additional card, but it's not as it used to be. Yet still powerful. This deck tried to utilize the power of the dock and maximize it. I decided to put all the character less than 4 cost. I knew there's a lot of the other powerful cards such as Namari or Jafar or maybe like the new Scar. You can put those cards into this card combination. And if you run in some princess deck, the beast might be an option. However, realistically, then when you facing tons of the flying, evasive, Dumbo, and Genie characters, turn 5 drop without do anything onto the field is kind of ridiculous, and unlike the previous beast, Namari cannot provide additional card into your hands unless you running it with time to reroll the escape artist. So that's why most of the time you will be struggling when the game can later and later the situation getting worse and worse. So that's why you have to finish the game in earlier turn, or you need to put tons of the pressure in the earlier stages. This deck able to successfully provide it because of Nara, and of course striking them back with reroll, so you can get rid of those earlier drops. Then most likely you will finish the game with shifted Rhino or Prude, and back up with the ladies. So simply that's the reason we choose those lower 2 cards rather than lower 1 cards. And because of that, the Pete, one of the most effective like referee, was taken out. It's because it's also not so effective anymore. Not so many people playing the action or relying on action. We already, showed you the Brapple. The Brapple only have 4, kind of like it has tons of actions. But if you just play in the pit, you cannot suppress the action. It's because like they just drop in the characters onto the field, and it's kind of overwhelming. Pete himself, his stats is not reliable. It's because he's not evasive, and his own request for 1, not always effective. And since the Be Prepared is gone, you really don't have to worry about the whole sweeping ball removal.
Well, there are none now.
Yeah, it's only under the sea. So like, I think like Pete wouldn't be taken away for now. After a few weeks, when everyone started playing the more than 14 actions, that's the time she should shine. For now, our hands are tight. The options are limited. So that's why I've taken out those Pete, and instead of that, we put back Mr. Lawrence and Lady. So those Lawrence and Lady, those are quite effective and powerful on turn 3 drop, can give enough pressure onto some control or evasive decks.
I think what I like is the Dwarf's Mind is back. I think a lot of people forget how happy and Dock 4 copies of both is. 8 knights that can possibly trigger the use of the card to the maximum. It's quite nice. Now that there's this removal option, having extra basically fire cannons being able to be used somewhere here and there are so much better to have as an option than none of. And also, it gains 1 law every turn. And it's 6 willpower. I think people are forgetting how we can't actually hit for that much nowadays because there's no Maui hero to all, or just crab or anything like that. There's nothing that comes out on the board to remove anything so quickly now. So it will stay. I would personally think that it will stay for like 2 turns at least. So that's just 2 quests right there for 2 drop. That could possibly pump damage as well. I think it's a huge one that we could utilize on this set.
Most of the time when you train this mine, usually it's gonna be like turn 4. You wanna activate its ability immediately to take out some earlier stages drops, but also that the 6 willpower is kind of annoyed the opponent because they have to challenge to this rotation, and by challenging it they lose the chance to quest, and also you have the chance to challenge. This card is a breakthrough card. You just drop the card from turn 1 to turn 3, then turn 4, boom, like you just suddenly play this mine and sweeping or like changing the situation. There's a lot of the card I carefully choose for the mirror match. Like Fire the Cannon is not always so effective. It's because most of the characters have a resist +1, except like Happy or Penny. Most of the characters cannot be taken out by Fire's Cannon. Most effective target would be like a Lady and Lilo. But other than that, there's no target, not that much. But there will be some like combination with, if you're targeting Pluto or like Lawrence, that's gonna be a different story. So you always should have that option to flip the board when you face in the mirror matchups. So Amber Amethyst deck is a kind of the base core stone in the environment. So I already said like a Dumbo will be dominate the situation. However, there's still a lot of hope for the aggro deck, and this Amber Steel Fire the Arrow decks are probably one of the best option to fight against those like Dumbo expensive evasive decks. This is the deck for answer against control decks.
Okay, so we're moving on to the third deck for today. So we have the Amethyst Steel. So obviously we talked about the Amethyst Steel, how it can go wide and how it can quest really quick is one, and how Amethyst obviously got the huge buff called Dumbo, which we talked about in Blue Pool. Combining those two, positive side, you can still make archetype, which is Amethyst Steel, that basically barely rotated after the new set as well. So if we take a look, we have Paliscard actually in this one, Rafiki, Happy, Timothy Q Mouse, Calhoun, Giant Cobra, which we can never forget in this archetype, and we got Tinkerbell, Lilo, Dumbo, Genie, Iago, Belle, Accomplished Mystic, and Elsa the Fifth Spirit, Tinkerbell Giant Theory, Fire the Cannons, Hypnotic Strength, and Strength of Raging Fire. Did you want to give us a breakdown on this?
Right. So breakdown of this deck is simply the turn 1 drop choices. You might have a question. I'm gonna explain that first. So I was a bit struggling about which card should be the best for this card combination. The Rafiki is kind of the effective in the earlier stages to get rid of Daisy. And Happy is good against evasive characters, back up with other card, as a removal cards usually. And the Paris Guard. So why is the Paris Guard rather than like a Royal Guard is a kind of the question you might gonna have. The reason I split up those turn 1 drops, this deck going to be faced a tons of the different types of the deck. And mostly they can be categorized 2 decks. The one using Dumbo, which is evasive. And another one is probably like an aggressive deck. And against aggressive deck, none of your like turn 1 drop, if you are playing first, normally your turn 1 drop is not so effective. Most of those characters, such as Rafiki or like a Happy, those characters have less effective when they are just questing. They're definitely going to challenge your character because Rafiki has no strength on him when he's just questing. So I'd like to put some character which can quest on turn 2. And that only card which can be reliable is Paris Guard. Paris Guard has 4 willpower, so it's similar to Daisy. He has less roar. The best point is he will not provide the opponent the additional extra curse because of his ability. And most likely he will remain on the board. He will be ignored most of the time. And then you can make a chance to read the like roar race and also playing some additional cards such as like Relo or Hypnotic Strength to like flip the board. So he's a kind of reliable, removable turn 1 drop. At the same time, I just say like reliable, but he also has a weakness. If the opponent playing Fire the Cannon, then that's fine, because Fire the Cannon, it can remove any turn 1 drops. in this situation. When they using Fire's Cannon or any other removal spell to this character, meaning your Iago will be survived, like the mortality of the Iago will be dropped so that you can keep him on the board more often. Timothy Q. Mouse, he is a new card. The reason we put him is because after turn 3 to turn 4, most of the cards you are going to play is evasive. So he will definitely get additional roar and he just keep questing. As this deck name mentioned, it says Aggro. So Aggro means you are going to read the race first and seeing how the opponent going to respond to it. When they respond, the turn area stage drops, you can easily to take them out by playing additional cards such as Iago or Cobra. And most of those cards are powerful enough removing the opponent card, and also at the same time they gonna be the target of their removal actions. So that's why I like to put another banish card, illusion card on turn 1 to attract them, let them playing a little bit a confusing situation. This deck's strategy is kind of the half brand of those the Dumbo Blue deck and the half brand of some massive aggro such as a Fire Zero deck. All the cards you see is not new that much. The reason we put those Timothy Q Mouse and reroll is because you are going to fasten the paces and make the pressure onto the opponent.
I quite like the big shift Tinkerbell. I am a little bit surprised that I don't see any Lawrence in here, and also Doc.
So the reason we don't have the Lawrence is that he has a lot of the other competitors, such as Tinkerbell and Lilo, but most likely the reason he was taken out this time is definitely Cobra. This Illusion Cobra is more powerful than the Lawrence. Simply, it will provide you 2 roar additionally, all of a sudden. So it's a kind of hidden silver barret in this deck, which is obvious, but not so many people can respond to that. It's because they don't have any answer with those abilities.
Yeah.
So we don't have the other usual cards. Maybe they prioritize Doc rather than Calhoun. In this game we don't have much hands, but the new card Dumbo is simply giving you tons of options to play. All of a sudden, or you the used Elsa or the Tinkerbell or Iago, those cards can be draw source. Some people putting Doc and then also the legendary powerful Ismer from the previous set. They will put those combination, and that's kind of the option. If you love to squeeze your hand and put all the things onto the field and draw additional card, that's gonna be an option. But most of the time, the situation will be stages, so that you are facing the similar card, mirror card tons of time, and then Dumbo simply provides you additional cards. In that situation, there's no place for Doc. It's because you would love to keep your cards in your hands to respond to the opponent's action, and that's why I don't think that Doc gonna be fit in the new situation, or at least this archetype. So you have the other option, putting Doc and Isma all together and make it a little bit more aggressive. But those cards have the weakness against Bravo, or we might gonna talk about in the future, but Ruby Amethyst control deck, because they are short-sighted. What you can imagine is your Isma is going to tapped out by Elsa, and the opponent Rafiki is going to challenge your Ismer. So you will never get any additional cards. You have the combination of Genie and Doc. You will be struggling because after you draw a card with Genie, there's definitely additional 1 or 2 cards. But you are going to discard those by playing Doc. The funny thing is that after you play Doc, you might not play any Dumbo or Genie from your hands. It's because maybe it's gonna be turn 5. The Doc's combination is powerful. However, if you love to running them, you need to utilize your deck list, put more the cards less than 3 costs. So in that case, you can put back Lawrence and PT in your deck. It's because it's a massive aggro deck, aiming to spend all your hearts on turn 4 or 5.
Okay, so we have finally looked at 3 of the fabled new meta decks that we are predicting they might do well in week 1 at least of the release. We are definitely planning to play some meta decks in person for a gameplay video as well, so make sure to check our channel out for these as well, because they'll be coming out very shortly.
Yeah, this is the first time since after Ravensburger announced and introduced this rotation, the Disney Lorcana, the situation has been changed a lot. So it's similar to their first environment, first chapter. However, you have tons of the more powerful cards, so you have the options. What kind of thing has been changed the most was probably the removal actions. So tons of the actions are gone. and your like beloved advantage characters such as Rapunzels are gone. You might gonna miss them. You can still play them in Infinity, but the new standard situation is going to be changed a lot.
Yeah, I think limited amount of removals means that you have to have those removals for the card that the opponent is going to play, that it's definitely something that you need to remove. Game 2, Game 3, keeping hand, and also what you're digging for, what you're looking for, is going to be more important than ever. And I think the number games for the strength and the willpower will be very much so playing the key on how you trade and what character stays on the board for the next questing. So I think those are going to be more of the main focus in the game moving forward, and also what will determine a good player and whatnot, I guess, is what it looks like right now.
We really don't have any like the whole removal style, such as Be Prepared. The Ruby core deck will be declining significantly, I believe. Yeah, there will be more like Ruby Sapphire at the moment, as far as we can see. But there will be definitely other types of Ruby deck will be back, such as Racer deck or Shinga deck will be coming back. We are looking forward to see the Ruby decks, but for now...
For sure. It's gonna be some new archetypes for sure.
So that's the situation, like you might not want to see a Ruby in the first week. But there is a potential, I'd say. And the Emerald decks as well. And this time we haven't touched those colors, but next time, if we could have the chance, then we will introduce brand new decks.
Today, Cage joined me through Discord, talking about 3 of the new meta decks that we predict will do quite well, / it might be quite popular since the launch. I have to play a different color now because Ruby Sapphire is quite hard to play right now, but I'm still looking forward to it. I think it feels really fresh to play the post-rotation decks. It's quite new. It's quite different to how it was. And I do have very much so faith in Lorcana on how they're making the game, and honestly, artworks are really cool. Some reprints with like nice artworks and an enchanted is look awesome, so I'm hoping to get more of them.
Ruby Sapphire, we are going to reunite them once again.
Because right now my Tamato enchanteds are just collecting dust at the moment, so I would love to put them to work at some time.
All we need is just additional popsicles.
So that might be a bit hard. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. We'll see you in the next one. Stay ready till next time. Bye.